Devlin, Untamed.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The Platform.
iOS, it's only sport. That's the name of this podcast. That's the name of our radio program, 1 till 4 on the platform. Weekdays, my name is Martin Devlin, Lachlan War alongside. Talking Owen Farrell, getting the 4 weeks that he should have copped last week. Peter FitzSimons, sideline at Wallabies training, chatting to Steve Hansen. What another New Zealand-Australian rugby collaboration. Ranfurly Shield rugby tonight. Tasman trying to do what they've never been able to do, which is win a Shield challenge. Wellington, the hosts. And Scott McLeod, defence coach for the All Blacks. All of those men on the podcast. Plus we discuss, of course, everything that has been happening today in the big, wide, wonderful world of sport. As always, tablets in hand, I say, gather my flock. It is time for a sermon. We're talking rugby. Let's go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
Rugby, our national game, the number one sport in New Zealand, then, now, and forever. Well, up until very recently, that was never in question. And while rugby still does hold the top spot, the sport will mostly lead most sports bulletins here and on our show. So 3 separate rugby stories to rant about right here, right now. Number 1, are you over the silliness about Steve Hansen helping the Wallabies? Are you over it already? Was it all a bit of a beat up from the mainstream media? Do you really consider it that much of a big deal? Or a bigger deal than it actually is? And what's more embarrassing? A, the giggly kid reporter who asked the Prime Minister about it. B, the Prime Minister himself saying he should rescind Steve Hansen's knighthood. C, the mass media making this into a news story and leading their sports bulletins with it. Or D, all of the above. Second topic, Ranfurly Shield. The FA Cup of New Zealand Rugby is back in the limelight tonight. Wellington host Tasman at the Caketon. It's a real winner-take-all contest, and we don't get these often in New Zealand rugby. Don't matter how you play, it doesn't matter anything other than who gets most points. Forget the NPC Championship and the implications for that particular competition. This match is and only is about the log of wood. The once most prized prize in New Zealand domestic rugby still holds meaning, albeit much reduced for most people. And I understand the younger generations probably don't give a rat's about it, but for the players tonight and all us oldies, and especially fans of both teams, yes, it's worth fighting for. Yes, it's still relevant. Yes, it demonstrates that tradition and history still have a huge place in our national game. And this particular trophy is worth playing for. Finally, World Rugby have done what they should have done last week, which is hand England captain Owen Farrell a significant ban for his no-arms head-high hit on the Welsh player Basham 2 weekends ago. The new judicial panel ruled overnight that Farrell's tackle was illegal. He had no arms in that tackle, and the first decision reached was, I quote, manifestly wrong. 2 wrongs don't make a right, but in the end, at least they did do the right thing. Hey, it might be a week late, but yes, finally, they did get it right.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The Platform.
Okay, I got about 4 out of 6 right in your slew of questions just before.
You got 4 out of 6 right. Good. That's a 4, 6. So that's a 7. That's 75%. That's pretty close to an A pass. That's not bad.
4 out of 6 is 2/3, mate. That's 66%. 66.7.
Okay, well in that case,
67.
Okay, in that case, my maths is terrible. In that case, I would say you're about a B. You got a B.
67 is probably a B.
Yeah.
I'd say.
You got a B.
Now, I'm not
if you're happy with a B, bollocks, mate.
I'm not happy with it.
You should be happy with an A.
I'll tell you what, if someone's texting and saying my geography is as bad as the Labour Party and what's going on there, well, I'd be getting 20%, wouldn't I? I'd be getting 1 out of 5, but I got 4 out of 6. So check yourself.
Argumentative sods this generation, aren't they?
Well, you guys
accept the fact you're wrong.
Hey, here's the thing.
Here's
You complain about this generation. You raised it. You raised this generation. Your sons are the new generation. Nothing against your sons. I mean, I've only met them once. Wonderful, upstanding young men they are.
Well, their mother
somehow
was beautiful and she raised them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you didn't raise them,
no,
did you?
all right, mate, I tried.
Well, did you?
Snotty little privileged, entitled bastards. Sorry, did
Anyway.
I talk about my children like that?
Oh, I mean, those are your words, not mine. I didn't say that. Right, let's start off with England rugby captain Owen Farrell, who has been hit with a 4-week ban and will miss his side's opening 2 matches of the Rugby World Cup. This, of course, coming after World Rugby appealed against the initial decision to overturn the red card that he received against Wales earlier this month for a high tackle, a dangerous tackle. Former New Zealand captain, former Black Caps captain, Stephen Fleming will join ex-England internationals Ian Bell and James Foster, as well as Pakistan's Saqlain Mushtaq, as part of a Black Caps coaching carousel that'll surround the team at the ODI World Cup, which starts in October not next month, sorry. It's over a month from now. Kiwi runner, this is great news. Kiwi runner George Beamish, but his nickname's Geordie Beamish. I've interviewed him before and we had him on the show last year, I think. He has earned an historic 5th place finish in the men's steeplechase at the World Championships in Budapest. It's the best finish by a Kiwi ever in the event. Good stuff, George. Zimbabwe cricket great Heath Streak has passed away after a publicised battle with cancer. He was 49 years old. It's pronounced Streak or Strike?
Streak.
Streak?
Yeah, I met him, interviewed him. Really nice guy.
The New York Knicks have sued the Toronto Raptors, their new head coach and a former Knicks scouting employee, saying that the defendants conspired to steal thousands of videos and other scouting secrets over the past few weeks. Well, the Knicks are owned by James Dolan, who's not exactly a well-liked figure in the NBA, so I don't know. Them suing another team, it's a bit odd. Liverpool's Alexis McAllister's red card in his side, in Liverpool's 3-1 win over Bournemouth on the weekend, has been overturned following a successful appeal. It means that he'll be able to play for the Reds against Newcastle this weekend.
Devlin.
That is a disgusting act.
The platform.
Owen Farrell finally cops the ban that he should have copped last week. He gets 4 weeks, 13 hours. It took the judiciary overnight to decide this. Chris Jones, Times Online, rugbypass.com, was there waiting, finally, for a decision to be made public. Well, how long were you waiting outside to hear?
Only just about 13 hours. I probably could have flown to Thailand in that period. It is just ridiculous to take that amount of time. When you read the decision of this panel, says that it was always an illegal tackle.
Yes.
And that the original disciplinary panel, the 3 Aussies, failed to notice that he hadn't wrapped his arm in the tackle. And they say that point did not feature in the original decision. Well, small children all around the world who play rugby noticed the arm wasn't wrapping, it was tucked under. And so now to say that the tackle was always illegal, what were those 3 Aussies doing?
Well, this is a big question, isn't it, now? And also the suspicion that World Rugby's directive to the new panel was to overturn that decision. Was that always the case, do you think, that this was always going to end up in a ban for Owen Farrell?
It had to be a ban for Owen Farrell, one, because of his record, and we'll come on to that in a minute about the decision to give him a 6-week ban. But to say that that they got it fundamentally wrong is just such a slap in the face for those 3 guys who obviously went into that meeting, I assumed, to make the right decision. But their discussion must have been either they were taken down a road they didn't want to go to and forgot what they were talking about, or they just got it so basically wrong, as suggested by this very damning statement about the original disciplinary committee, that they will never stand again, will they? Those 3 will never be called up to judge anything, not even at your local fair, when they put out which is the best bowl of flowers.
Chris Jones is with us, Times Online, rugbypass.com. Look, it is ridiculous and it's farcical. They finally reached the decision that we all had reached the moment that Farrell actually hit Basham without his arms. We said at the time, Chris, there were no arms in the tackle. A couple of things here. Is the ban long enough for him, given previous form?
Well, probably not, no, because he's got 6 weeks. And because of his good character, and he was really sorry for all of this, it was downgraded to 4 games. Normally it's 6, you get down to 3, and that's what we probably expect Billy Vanapola to get, who was also waiting all these hours before his hearing could start. So he's probably taken a pillow and some blankets for his hearing. We won't get that decision until tomorrow. But, there could have been an argument for 10 weeks. Yeah, but then they would have said you were down to 5, 50%. give you 50% for anything. But quite honestly, the 4 games actually do mean something, because although they allowed them to count the Ireland game, which he was stood down from last weekend, he will miss the Fiji game on Saturday. But crucially, the only 2 games that England will have any problems with in the World Cup are the first 2, and he misses those 2 against Argentina on the 9th of September, the critical one, and against Japan on the 17th of September, which it looked like an easy match for England until they started playing these warm-up games. And now, quite honestly, if you're Japan, you're thinking, we can get ourselves into form now. We're playing England.
Is it time to get rid of the KCs, QCs, expensive lawyers for the defence, and all of the waffle and the trough and the bollocks that goes alongside this, and just get a couple of people who have either played the game within the last 12 months or a referee who has, and just get those people to decide? Or pick 3 fans out of the stand and get them to decide. Because once the lawyers get involved, the gobbledygook happens. These people get paid by the hour. They want this to drag on. And we always seem to end up coming to these silly decisions.
Absolutely. And for the RFU, who haven't got a lot of money, this is a massive bill now. To be told that the original decision was manifestly wrong. How much of a slap is that? Look, the system is broken. They've tried to fix it, and they've made it so difficult now to actually bring common sense into the equation now, because these are professionals. We're talking about their livelihood and the implications for all of that. So therefore, they take their briefs in with them. And this is having everybody said that Richard Smith last week was brilliant at getting him off. They're now going to be saying, obviously, he's bloody useless because he didn't get him off in the end. He's copped for a 4-match ban. So even having a sort of a King's Counsel doesn't always get you there when the original decision is proved to be manifestly wrong. Those are 2 words that David Croft and the rest of the Aussies who sat in judgment are going to have to live with.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. Lachlan. Next! Did they get it right?
Yep.
Is 4 weeks enough?
Yeah, I would have actually thought. So it's 4 games though, isn't it? So it means that he misses. They're playing this weekend, I'm assuming, England. So it's the first 2 matches in their pool.
Yeah. So he misses Argentina and Japan.
So they've got 2 warm-ups left. Gee. Okay. Yeah, look, as much as what he did was illegal, you couldn't do anything so severe that he pretty much plays for none of their group stage, because England are going to have a real tough time getting out of that group, because you've got Japan and Samoa as well as Argentina. But no, I don't. Yeah, I think 4 games is fair. I would have been happy if it was 3, to be honest. I probably would have been all right if it was 2.
How did they initially get it so terribly wrong?
I don't know. I mean, the blokes that they hired to be the initial judiciary committee or whatever they were 3 guys would never heard of.
They just must be absolutely ashamed now.
Yeah.
I mean, they have been ridiculed in front of the world. They have been made to look like fools in front of the world.
Well, World Rugby have absolutely thrown them under the bus and said that you guys, I can't remember the exact term they used, but essentially said you got it totally wrong.
Yeah, manifestly wrong.
Manifestly wrong, there you go. And they're not going to be used ever again.
Well, that was going to be my next question. Yes!
Isn't that more?
Will you see any of those names on another? No, you won't. No, you won't. That is the end of your cushy donut sitting there judging whether or not a guy should get a red or a red rescinded. Gone, you guys.
Yeah. But look, if there's 2 things. If they were so wrong with it that everyone could see, how on earth do you get to that point? What was their thought process to say that we asked this last week? What's going through their mind to get him off?
Why would not World Rugby put one of those guys up to explain? Because I think that also should be part of the process, that afterwards you should have to explain your decision.
Now, are those guys employed by World Rugby, or is this like a contractual thing where they just kind of
I don't think they're on the permanent payroll.
But shouldn't they have people on the permanent payroll doing that? So there's constant, comms between World Rugby and who's actually making these decisions?
Question again.
Clearly World Rugby got it wrong as well.
This is not a court process where you get a different jury every time. Should it not be the same brains, to get some kind of consistency here?
Yes, surely.
And should those people who are judging this have at least played the game recently?
Yeah.
So that they are...
Or reffed recently or something like that.
Something.
Yeah. And it should be 3-4 people, all from different corners of the planet as well, who maybe their backgrounds are from different countries. Because all three blokes were Australian, weren't they, on that initial one?
They just got completely and utterly bamboozled by a defence lawyer who came up with a whole lot of gobbledygook. I don't know what the directive is from World Rugby, but it should be as clear as this. These are the rules. Look at the pictures. Did he break the rules? I mean, it was the most obvious decision ever in terms of red cards, and yet again they got it completely wrong. I agree with you about World Rugby throwing them under the bus. Next, did they pick a new judicial panel and then advise that judicial panel of the decision that they wanted them to reach?
Wow.
Do you suspect that? Because I do.
Yeah, there was wording in an article I read yesterday that I think we discussed on the show that pretty much World Rugby said to this new panel, we want you to look at it again. And it's a bit like VAR. It's a bit like the bunker in the NRL. When you got someone in your ear upstairs who's looking at footage or something, they say, no, you need to look at this again. It means you've made the wrong decision. You need to go and make the right one after watching this piece of tape. I think it's the same thing here. But also, even if they don't say, if they're going back and looking at it again and hiring a new panel, even if World Rugby don't say anything along those lines that suggests, no, they want you to change the original decision, that in itself, them just looking at it again suggests they're not happy, they need that decision to be overturned.
Next! Did they want that decision overturned because of the pending lawsuits against the game?
That surely would have been going through their heads.
Well, again, I mean, it would be stupid to think that it hasn't occurred to them, right?
Yeah.
Final question then regards this. Next! He misses Argentina and Japan, as Chris says there, the first two games of the Rugby World Cup. How does that affect England's chances in those two games?
Well, you're without one of your probably 3 or 4 best players, and you're without your captain, as Chris alluded to there. When you don't have your captain, you don't have the guy that you're looking up to and you're looking to for guidance and leadership on the field, especially in their 2 most important games in that group. That's got to be incredibly offsetting. Like, I'm not comparing him to Richie McCaw or our great captains.
All we can do is put our guy's name in his...
But imagine that's Richie McCaw in 2011 and 2015.
Well, no, take up Mwanga now and say that he misses the...
Well, not so much Mwanga, more so maybe one of our key leaders, like an Ardie or a Sam Cane. Take them out.
So he's the captain and first 5.
Doesn't Farrell play inside centre?
Sorry, inside centre.
Yeah.
So I just think it is a massive loss for them in every which way.
Yeah. I mean, especially against that Japan game will be a crunch. Like, it could be fatal.
It could be 2015 all over again. Steve Hansen, sideline with the Wallabies. What's all that about? Well, what an overreaction, of course, as always, from the hysterical mainstream sporting media in New Zealand about this yesterday. Peter FitzSimons, he was sidelined today at Wallabies training, spying on Steve, spying on the Wallabies, spying on the All Blacks. The former Wallaby Peter FitzSimons, staunch Republican and our favourite one-eyed cantankerous Australian, joins us again. Peter, welcome back.
Nice to be here. I don't think you can be a former Wallaby, Marty. You're either a Wallaby or you aren't, and I am and you aren't. There you go.
All right. Well, I would like to formally invite you on behalf of New Zealand to stand sideline with Ian Foster and help prepare our All Blacks for the Rugby World Cup. The country would react with shock and horror, Peter.
There I was, Marty, standing beside Steve Hansen at the Wallaby training. He thought I was just being friendly, but I was being a double agent. I was pretending to be an Australian on the Australian side, but I was actually there for you, Marty. I was watching that bastard. I was making sure that he didn't whisper in Eddie's ear anything about All Black secrets, anything. How did I go? Do you want me to give you my report?
Yes, please. And I know that you're lying because I know what... All right.
No, look, what happened was I turned up at Wallaby training this morning. It was on the edge of Paris. It was quite a big deal. First Wallaby training I've been to in 20 years. And, in fact, I fondly tell the story. It must have been about 94, 95. I went to the All Black training at Eden Park just before Bledisloe, and Laurie Mains was the coach, and he saw me, and he blew the whistle, and he said, "Everybody stop! FitzSimons, leave the building."
No!
As if I would have the first clue about what the All Blacks were doing. But anyway, I went to the Wallaby training this morning, and it was a big deal. The Wallabies arrived in 2 buses with a police escort, lots of vans behind. It was like Akadaka was arriving. It was a really big deal. We go to this absolutely pristine, beautiful 2 beautiful rugby fields. They start training. I see Steve Hansen, or Sir Steve Hansen, lovely bloke, love him, great guy, great rugby man. and we were chatting, and he did mention in passing that there was some controversy in New Zealand. I must say he wasn't fussed about it, and I'm not fussed about it. I hope you haven't been mean about it, Marty, have you or not?
No, look, not at all. We had him on the program yesterday. Look, he's also savvy enough to know that there's going to be a reaction back here in New Zealand when that story broke, and it's only because members of your fraternity, the newspapers especially, write these blazing clickbait headlines, Peter, about defection and traitor and all of that kind of stuff to try and get...
But it's bullshit. It is
bullshit, of
I'll
course.
speak honestly for a moment. I mean, it's absolute bullshit. Steve Hansen is a great rugby man, and I remember sitting next on the bus next to Gary Wetton back in the early 92. We were on our way to the third World 15 versus the All Blacks, and he was talking to me about, the ins and outs of All Black training. And I was thinking, that's how it works. That's really interesting. And he just said something in passing. He said New Zealand rugby needs Australian rugby to be strong. And, that is the absolute truth of it. New Zealand, you guys need us. And World Rugby, we're struggling. World Rugby needs Australian rugby to be strong. And Steve Hansen is not passing over any messages of All Black secrets of how they're doing. What he's doing, he's wandering around having a bit of a chat. That's it. There's no meetings at midnight, and he was talking to me really about the virtues of culture, of a culture where, you know each other, you like each other, old-style rugby values. And the All Blacks have, been terrific on that kind of stuff. Well, we were both talking about the lovely line from my favourite rugby man ever, Sir Brian Lahore, BJ Lahore.
Wonderful man.
And the great line, and wonderful, the late, great BJ Lahore, who said, better men make better All Blacks. And it's a great line, and it is choose people on character and build them from there. And
well, how did you get a captain? Come on. I mean, that's
exactly.
How did that change after FitzSimons was selected, was it?
I had the honour to be the deadwood cutaway to reveal the great team beneath. Twice, 84 Grand Slam, 91 World Cup, the two great eras of my time, and there was only one Wallaby that was in the tour immediately preceding both, and it was me. Somebody had to be the deadwood, Marty, and I had the honour to serve.
You know what, I tell you what, so Greg Martin tells me every week he's still bitter and twisted about being dropped for the 91 World Cup as well. So does that linger this long, does it?
Yeah, a bit. I'll tell you one other thing. It won't surprise you that I've done a brilliant piece.
Well, I was just going to say, I read a Sydney Morning Herald column, and it was actually written very well, I thought. Yeah.
Well, no, this is the one that's going to be up. This is the one that'll be on tomorrow. I'm on French time still, but to see the training, Jesus, like as they're training, this probably won't surprise you because you're up to date, but it surprises me. Steve was sort of explaining to me what was going on. I said, what the ruck are those drones doing up there? So as the Wallabies are training, there's two drones in the air, with two guys at the end of the field observing it on screens. And I said, what the hell are they doing? And Steve said, something, alignment, something. I said, does that help? He said, something. Yes, something. Like he's speaking in technical gibberish that I've got no understanding of. Then they do. Do you know what tempo lineouts are, Marty?
Illuminate me. No, I don't.
Oh, neither did I. Never heard of them, never seen of them, never even heard a rumour of them. But near the end of the training, the Wallabies were going up and down the field, and instead of doing it the way we do a line-out, 5, 54, backman, turner, overdrive 1, which means it'll go to the guy at the back, they're just going bang, ball's going in, bang, and they're doing about 4 a minute going up and down the field. I said to Steve, what's that? He said, something, tempo line-out, something. And I said, what are they? And it's something whereby as you go into the line-out, you determine where the defensive positions are. So you make the instant call, but you do it with a signal, and bang, it's in before they know it. And I said, is that a Wallaby thing? And he said, that's a world thing. That's the way it's done, around the world. And I must say, for a team, for the Wallabies, just to give you a bit of a feel for how the Wallabies look, I mean, they've been thumped four tests in a row. They haven't, in the era of Eddie, they haven't won yet. And you'd think they'd be a little bit downbeat, but they're not. They look good. They look strong. Like it's a fresh start for the World Cup. They're playing France on Sunday. And Will Skelton, I think he's the fourth captain in 5 tests. I interviewed him afterwards, and I had a good chat to Eddie afterwards. And the vibe, I suppose always the vibe, you'd expect it this early on because it's it's 0-0 and the first whistle hasn't blown. But the general vibe of the Wallabies I thought was very upbeat, which I take some heart from.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. Next! I present a scenario to you, Lachlan. You tell me what has more chance of happening. What does Tasman create history tonight and win the Ranfurly Shield for the very first time, or the Warriors drop one of their 2 remaining games, St George home, Dolphins away?
What's got more chance? I would actually say the Warriors dropping one of their last 2 games has more chance, because I think that they'll win this weekend and then they will have the luxury of being able to rest some players in the last round, because I think Brisbane win this weekend as well, and that'll officially mean the Warriors can't finish second. Brisbane and Penrith will win. So then I think they'll look at it and go, look, we're not going to get any higher than third. Let's just be a bit safe and rest some guys and then have them fresh for the first round of the finals. So that's got more chance of happening.
Okay, all right. What is more chance of happening? Tasman win the Ranfurly Shield, take it home. Would they land in Blenheim first or Nelson? I reckon they'd go to Blenheim because of the fact that Marlborough won the Shield in 1973. They have more chance of winning tonight, or the New Zealand sports mainstream media en masse give themselves a good uppercut for running that absolute BS story yesterday about the Prime Minister saying that Steve Hansen should get his knighthood.
Well, because their argument would be, it's a matter of public interest. It gets clicks, it's interesting. That's what their argument would be. It gets clicks. Because it does get clicks, sadly. For a lot of people, it gets clicks because it's cringeworthy. So what's got more chance of happening? Tasman win the Shield.
I always look in the mainstream media websites at their most read stories, and I'm just constantly stunned at what the general public actually think and care about. And it is always nothing that anyone who works in a newsroom think is important. Next! What is more chance of happening? Tasman create history. They win the Ranfurly Shield for the first time. Or Mason Greenwood, after a period away from England, will eventually rejoin the Premier League.
Ooh, I would say...
if the Saudis have rejected him, there's no chance.
I would say the second one. Eventually, not for a number of years, but I think eventually Mason Greenwood will find his way back in the Premier League. Yep.
How long is it going to take?
It'd be 4, 5, 6 years.
I'd say it's at least that long. He's 22 now?
Yeah. It'd be a while, but I absolutely think that'll happen.
The Saudis are saying no.
Well, they're saying no now. If it was 5, 6 years from now, what would they say? They'd say absolutely yes. It's purely because of the optics of it right now. Mason Greenwood will get a contract in Slovakia or Serbia or Lithuania or Russia or somewhere where they won't really care about it, Norway or Poland or somewhere where they'll be like, hey, well, he's innocent. He'll play well, he'll score goals, he'll make headlines over there, then he'll get more attention of other clubs, and eventually he'll find his way into Western Europe, and then he'll find his way back to England. That's what will happen.
Next! Top text. Broncos have got the Raiders and the Storm left. Banana peels everywhere, mate. Don't think that you...
Raiders are not a good team right now. The Raiders are scraping by with wins, but we should beat them. The Storm, no, I agree with you. The Storm game, we have not beat... I've said this before, we've not beaten them at home since 2009.
You were praying that the Warriors finish third, aren't you? You want the Warriors in the first week of the playoffs.
I don't want the Storm. Well, then again, if we go and win that game, that might stop the Storm from getting third. So...
Next! What is more chance of happening finally before we go to the break and get Telf? That Tasman do it tonight in Wellington, or Madonna's 29-year-old boyfriend is still going to be with her on her 70th birthday. Now, he appeared at the 65th birthday celebrations. He's going to still be in love with her, and they'll be together when she turns 70. What is more chance of happening? That or Tasman win the Shield tonight?
Much more chance of some Mako sharks circling around Wellington Bay and snatching and eating up some lions and taking that Shield home. I'm sorry.
Why don't you believe in love, Lachlan? What is wrong with you, man?
34-year-old man still, with all due respect, still be with a 70-year-old woman? Really?
There's something grab a granny about this. It's off.
It is granny. That's ridiculous.
It is just in every which way. And I know you're going to say, hey, look, 70-year-old billionaires have 18 and 19 and 20-year-old girlfriends.
That doesn't matter. Well,
we know why. Because they're cashing in.
Cool.
Is this guy cashing in?
Yes. Attention at the absolute least. I don't know if he's getting money out of it. Maybe that's it. Once he gets
How
to the...
much regular sex are they having? Look at the cringy look on your face, Lachlan.
Well, I tell you what,
if Madonna came knocking on your door tonight...
No, I am keeping that door locked.
If Madonna
that door
said,
is locked.
Lachlan wore you and me in love forever, Trevor, tonight...
Now, if this was Madonna from, say, the 70s...
Well, that's not Madonna from the 70s, that's or the 80s.
I would absolutely welcome
it's
her in.
It's Madonna at 65
like, hey,
years
Madonna,
old
would you like a tall glass of
facelifts.
water? The bathroom's free. No, sorry. No.
Okay, I'm going to do the Saudi Arabia. I'm starting to offer you Neymar money here. A 25-bedroom house with 5 staff members, a pool and a private jet.
You're pimping her out.
I'm pimping Madonna out and I'm saying, Lachlan, you have a price.
How much?
The Lamborghini, the Bentley, the driver.
So everything Neymar got?
Everything Neymar gets. To be in love with Madonna.
Well, how long
and
for?
Make it a beautiful love with her.
How long for?
The rest of your goddamn life.
No way. No way.
Come on, what was all the one now? Come on.
No, sorry. Well, can I get a divorce after a few minutes? After getting the luxuries? No, not at all.
Can't approach a loving relationship wanting to get a divorce, Lachlan. That's not the way that
Of course not. No, that was just a joke.
So Tasman have more chance, ladies and gentlemen.
Tasman has much more chance.
Devlin.
All Blacks defence coach Scott McLeod was with the team in 2019. He's in fact been with the All Blacks since 2017. How are we going to combat that rush defence, those box kicks, which we found so troublesome from the Lions tour in 2017 right throughout that World Cup in Tokyo? The All Blacks defence coach spoke to him last Friday before the team left for England, then on to Paris. Heading into Tokyo, and it really started big time. I don't have to remind you, 2017 in the Lions tour, it was all about the box kick, wasn't it? It was rush defence and the box kick. What are the biggest challenges you face from the opposition now in defence 4 years later, or are those two things just as relevant?
They are still very relevant. What you're seeing now, though, is a lot of teams are trying to play you through the middle of the field. They're trying to bunch you up there or create redundant defenders. So they're defending nobody, and then they just swing with loads of numbers into an edge of the field, to one side of the field, and then they make you make decisions there. So they have runners in the front, runners out the back, and they'll hit wherever they think the space is. So that's been has really grown in that game across northern and southern hemisphere in the last couple of years.
One of the things that we had going back to 2011 to defuse was called the Bomb Squad with Richard, of course, and Israel and Corey Jane. Do you specifically work, or how much work do you do in that, diffusing those high kicks and looking at your systems and players around, and how to put people in the right positions when that happens?
Yep, 100%. So I do a lot of work on that, particularly when we're playing against the box and any northern sides like England and teams that where they get no momentum, then they'll look to try and put a contestable kick up somewhere and regain it to play again. So we put as much time in as allowing the catcher to have clean airspace to catch into, if that makes sense. So a lot of our work coming back towards the ball, making sure that it's created a space he can jump into and he can win that airspace. Because if we find if we do that, we're more than likely to catch the ball. South Africa will try and put someone up into that space, a lock or someone tall, and try and disrupt that. So we can control that.
One of the other things I was watching during the Six Nations, and I'm damn sure that you've spent an inordinate amount of hours doing this as well, is the way that Ireland and France were really keen, especially France when they played Ireland, to attack from the 22. So it's almost like your first line of defence is actually in their half, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. So most teams now are looking for space, and when you're exiting out, a lot of teams want to hold 3 to 4 people back getting ready for that kick, and that's the opportune time to actually play into that space, because there's so much more there. There's less defenders, so they will now run and kick into that space and play short, and most teams have got the confidence to do that now. So you have to be on no matter where you are.
How do you teach scrambling defence, Scott?
Yeah, it's all about how much they care, Marty. how hard you're willing to work and to get back and put yourself in places where you're needed. So you just got to grow the care. And if you have, 23 guys willing to care deeply, then they will run fast for you.
First half against Australia, I bet you were grumpy because we conceded a couple of tries out wide that looked kind of similar in that I don't know what was wrong with that defence system at that stage, but guys weren't getting across fast enough. What was your analysis of it?
Yeah, I was grumpy, all right.
I bet, yeah.
I was grumpy because we didn't execute the skill sets we previewed and trained all week, and that was the height of our tackles. So, we'd miss tackles, we'd let them get on the gain line and get through us, and then they were just running on top of us, and we couldn't put any pressure on them. And it all stemmed from not nailing our tackling skill right from the word go.
Right.
So those guys at the end, they can have 3-4 players running at them, and it's not their fault because we haven't done the first part right. So we're definitely going to focus on getting our skill set right in that area.
In terms of the attack, and I'm sorry I've taken a bit of time to get to this, but this is fascinating listening to you talking about that side of the ball. Okay, but when it comes to attack, it's also that turnover stuff of turning the defence into attack first and foremost. Fozzie was saying that he doesn't want to over-structure it. He wants to empower the players, though, to see space, to take space. Now, in your mind, is that anywhere in the field, and that's where your defence coach becomes your attack coach at the same time?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's if not the major reason why we defend is to get the ball back, and we love as Kiwis that unstructured attack and playing with our gut feel and what we can see. And if we put that skill set around what spaces are we looking for, is it a run space, is it a pass space, a kick space, and we get excited about that. So that's why we defend. That's why we want to get the ball back.
Scott McLeod is with us. In terms of empowering the players and filling them full of confidence, what do you say to them about, hey, look, you're going to make a mistake. I hope you don't, and you don't want to, but you are going to make mistakes. Things are going to go wrong. You're going to miss these things. How do you get out of that mindset and don't fall into the fear of, oh, my God, I've made a mistake. I don't want to make another one?
Yeah, so you can't control every situation. And in defence, we have a few principles that we live by, and we've got defence leaders on the park, and if they're seeing some things happening that aren't our principles, then they can deal with that. And a guy will make, like you say, a mistake and make the wrong call or not do the principle that we're after, and it should be an easy fix, really, and we can send those messages down and correct that at the same time.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. Rugby Ranfurly Shield tonight. It still means something. Tasman have never held that trophy. Yeah, Marlborough got it in 1973, but Tasman, as a franchise, have never won the Ranfurly Shield. Is it going to happen tonight? Grant Nisbett joins us to talk about. Nisbo, tonight we've got a Shield challenge. Don't tell me that log of wood doesn't mean anything. You were there, calling Hut Rec on the weekend with Justin when we beat Southland, and now we've got to play Tasman tonight. I'm so looking forward to this.
Should be a beauty, shouldn't it? I mean, it's a serious challenge, this one. Southland came in with no form really at all, but Tasman, we know they've been a very good team over the years. They played poorly last weekend.
Yes,
I'm not sure what happened against Northland, but nevertheless, they are a serious challenge, and it should be a great game. It should be.
This has been a trophy that I call it the FA Cup of New Zealand Rugby. Of course, it's been devalued over the years, and for those of us who do care, we really care. But I also believe that the players care, Nisbo, because you'll see that tonight. This is a Tasman team which wants to create history.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course the players care. I mean, it's very hard to get a hold of and very easy to lose. And I think it is the one trophy in New Zealand Rugby that every player craves to get a hold of. And many go through an entire career of 10 to 15 years and never really get a decent shot at it. And Wellington, as you know, Marty, don't have the Shield very often.
No.
And when they do get it, they want to treasure it. And that's why it means a hell of a lot.
Yeah, and I know that, we won it last year against Hawke's Bay. I know that the NPC is going on, and Wellington 3-0. Tasman, as you see, that loss against Northland, are 2-1 at the moment. Is it more important to win this game, to win that trophy, than it is thinking about NPC points, do you think, for coaches and players tonight?
Yeah, I reckon it is. I honestly do. I mean, if it was to go to Tasman, and, it'll be shared between Nelson and Blenheim, I'm sure, it would attract a lot of people along to watch, and it would certainly give the game one hell of a boost, that's for sure. It's funny, though, in Wellington, I mean, there's a saying going around, of course, when it goes to the big centres, it kind of gets lost. And funnily enough, listen, I've been listening to local radio this morning, and there's been no mention of the game whatsoever. It's quite incredible, really. And when you go back to when you and I were possibly growing up, and they had street parades and all the rest of it, you mentioned the word devalue, and I think you're absolutely right. It doesn't seem to attract the same sort of interest. Now, whether that's because the World Cup's coming up in a week or two, I'm not sure, but it just doesn't seem to hold the same interest it once did.
Well, I was there in 82. I'm sure you were there at Athletic Park when Wayne Bloody Smith ran through us, mate, and we didn't get it for another 25 years. All of those Shield challenges where we went down to Christchurch, frying lamb in the street in Courtney Place, and Richard Lowe destroying Bill Favenbury. We went through all of that horror, didn't we? So to actually hold it, to see it on the sideline when I was watching on the weekend, it looked glorious. They looked as though they'd buffed it up. Is that the case?
Yeah. Look, it's 118 years old, apparently, and there's a lot of stories attached to the Ranfurly Shield. And so they have restored it, and it does look really nice, doesn't it? It's been restored to something like its original value, if you like. Look, my Ranfurly Shield story go back even further than yours. I can remember as a young kid, when Wellington went to the Shield, went to Auckland and grabbed the Shield in the early 60s. I remember on a Monday morning going down to Wellington railway station and welcoming the team home. They came back by train, can you believe it? And look, many heartbreak trips to places like Hawke's Bay and Canterbury as a youngster. And so to actually have it in the capital is wonderful.
Look, Tasman do have a history. We can't ignore the fact that Marlborough won it in 1973, and that is etched in folklore in New Zealand rugby as one of the greatest efforts at winning it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I happened to be there that day, I've got to say. And then I was there when they lost it too. They lost it to South Canterbury, and then Wellington took it off South Canterbury. In those days, it was moving around a fair bit. We all know that it got stuck in Auckland. It can get stuck in places like Canterbury. But in recent years, it's been on the move, and it's been fantastic. It's been to places, as you say, like Hawke's Bay. It's been to Otago.
Counties, Manukau got it for a bit,
and it's great, really.
Yeah, and the place that it holds, how important is it? When the CEO turns around and says that, the NPC is not fit for purpose, and I mean, an extraordinary comment, and I hope those words haunt him, because I'm looking at the points table, and I've been watching games over the weekend, and even though the spectator interest isn't there in terms of those turning up to the games, the quality of the rugby's been bloody good. Would you agree?
I've enjoyed it. Yeah, I always enjoy it because it's so tribal. It's where you're from. I care more about, because I'm born and bred in Wellington, I care more about how Wellington goes than I care about the Hurricanes. Now, that sounds a bit silly, I know, but that's the way it is. It is tribal, and I hope it never loses that. I've enjoyed it. Obviously, the All Blacks haven't been playing, and they rarely ever do these days, of course, in the competition. But it gives us an opportunity to see the next generation of players come through. And I'll mention that word again, tribal. I love it.
That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show, 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, download the Platform app. And via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do, though, is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
Unbelievable. Incredible.
The Platform.